welcome. A little update on the Microweily project, so to say. I got most of it clean now. There are still some spots where there were a very thick layer of old coolant and chips and so on, where I missed those spots because I ran out of this clear. It's some sort of universal cleaner degreaser. It's very effective for old coolant, this type of coolant. Normally I use a product from Biocircle called CB100. That is also very good for types of coolant, but this type of coolant it was not so good at. The other one here was way better. And normally old or freshly coolant is good to remove old coolant, but it didn't have had the effect that I hoped for when I first started to get the coolant pump working here and made it overflow the castings and chip pan and so. But it did work a little bit, but this one were way better. I have refilled the gearbox wheel with oil. It's just a regular ISO 22 hydraulic, but it tends to have a little bit of leaking. I can't see where it's coming from. Maybe it's due to it's not aligned at the moment, leveled at the moment, but also we have it tilted a lot when we got it off the trailer. So I have cleaned it all off, wiped it all off, where the oil could stay, and now I will wait to see if it's returning, or maybe I can see where it's leaking from. Other than that, I have had the top slide or compound removed because I wanted to use my multi-fix 2-post, and the bolt that were from the factory in the compound needed to be removed from the inside, so to say. But I couldn't do that either, to my surprise, and I didn't want to put too much force into it and break the casting. The casting isn't very thick inside where the gips are or dovetails. So instead I cut the bolt off and I tapped with some M16 thread. In the bottom of that special bolt there was a center hole from when they manufactured it, so I have a very good starting point and just drill it from downwards. Of course I have flipped the compound, but I have had it removed and wiped it all off, cleaned it and oiled it, so now it's running super smooth. I can see there's almost no wear at all on the slides, surface or spindle and nut. So it's very good, but how often do you use a top slide or compound anyway? But of course it's still nice to have it. Other than that, I have removed the 3-jaw chuck that came with the lathe, and I have mounted the 4-jaw it came with, and now I have mounted this Brad Burnett collet chuck just to see how it performed. The spindle is, I would say, almost like a brand new. I've never owned or seen a spindle with such little damage or wear at any. You can see all the grinding marks and so from the manufacturer. So when you remove it, you have to. It binds a lot to the spindle nose. Even though I lubricate it a lot, you really have to make some with a dead blow hammer force into it. I never owned a lathe or used a lathe where the spindle was so fresh and new, so it were binding like so in the taper. So it's very nice to finally have a lathe that is at the level I want it to be at. And you can see here there's still, of course, these are the pins that are fallen off due to the chips, but there are still some old coolant and stuff I need to remove. But in general, I think it cleaned up very well, and I'm satisfied with it. Another nice thing of this lathe I would point out is the tailstock. As you can see, it has a good size. It has some mass to it, so it's really rigid. But the main thing I want to highlight is the gearbox, where you can lower the speed down, so you can really push hard if you're using a drill or anything like that, where you need to add some force. So that's also a nice feature. And as I mentioned in the first video, it has a VFD inbuilt in the back, and it has 3 high, medium and low gear settings. So the downside with the VFD is that in the lower frequency you don't have too much torque, but when you combine it with the gearbox, you have the low gear ratio in the mechanic and still have the variable frequency. So you still have a lot of torque in the lower area, but you still have a wider area, so to say. And it's very nice when you're machining something and you just can't get the chip to break or cutting a thread. You can slower the speeds downwards, and when you reverse, you can speed it up. That's one of the benefits of having a VFD. The downside is, as I mentioned in the first video, it's kind of noisy. When you change the frequency, the motor will change sound, and at some RPMs it will start to almost scream or make a very, very high frequency sound. But I don't know how the microphone will pick it up, but it's not as bad as it sounds. My old Colchester were way higher when running in the normal gearbox than this is. It's another sound, another sound, but it's still not that noisy. And I always use eye and hearing protection, so it doesn't really matter. But let's fire it up and hear how it's working. I still need to clean this safety guard a little more, and also the switch mechanism, and try to make something that a little more stiffer than this. And as you can see, it has a really effective brake. And let's try the lowest gear. And because it's the VFD that is used as brake, even though I have the big, 350mm 3-jaw, it still brakes extremely well. Also the gear mechanisms work surprisingly well. My coaches, they were in a good condition, but you could really feel that they had been changed gears, a lot of them. My Triumph 2000 came from a trade school, so there has been hundreds of students on the lathes, and you could really feel that they were used. So it's also nice to have a lathe where all things just works as intended. yeah. But that was just a little update on the Microweily TY2500. Thank you for watching.